Hey everyone, welcome back. Last time, we left Noah, his family, and all the animals safely tucked inside the ark as the floodwaters covered the entire earth. It was a time of immense judgment, a reset for humanity. But as we dive into Genesis chapter 8 today, we're going to see a beautiful shift from judgment to remembrance, from chaos to new beginnings. This chapter is all about God's faithfulness and the promise of a fresh start. So, let's open up to Genesis chapter 8, verse 1. It starts with one of the most comforting phrases in the entire Bible, "But God remembered Noah." Isn't that powerful? After 150 days of the waters prevailing, with the ark floating on a seemingly endless ocean, it might have felt like they were forgotten. But they weren't. God's memory isn't like ours. It's not about suddenly recalling something he forgot. In the Bible, when God remembers, it means he is about to act on his promises. He remembered his covenant, his plan, and the righteous man he had chosen. This is a huge theme for us too. In moments when we feel lost, adrift, or forgotten, we can hold on to the truth that God remembers us. Following this remembrance, God takes action. He sends a wind to blow over the earth, and the waters begin to recede. It's a slow process, not an instant miracle. The springs of the deep and the windows of heaven, the sources of the flood, were closed. The rain stopped. This detail is important because it shows us a gradual, natural-seeming process guided by a supernatural hand. God often works this way in our lives too, doesn't he? The healing, the restoration, it's often a step-by-step journey, not a single leap. The waters decreased steadily, and on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Imagine the feeling inside the ark. After months of floating, they finally feel a solid bump. Land. They weren't on solid ground yet, but they were no longer adrift. They were anchored. This must have been a moment of incredible hope. Even so, they had to wait. The tops of the mountains didn't even become visible for another 2.5 months. Patience is a tough virtue, but it's one Noah and his family had to learn in a big way. They were safe in the ark, but they had to wait for God's perfect timing to step out into the new world. 40 days after the mountaintops appeared, Noah decided it was time to do a little reconnaissance. He opened the window of the ark and sent out a raven. The raven is a scavenger, a hardy bird. The text says it flew back and forth until the waters had dried up from the earth. It could likely find places to land and things to eat, like carcasses, so it didn't need to return to the ark for survival. The raven's mission gives a general sign that the water is going down, but Noah needs more specific information. He needs to know if the ground is truly ready for life to flourish again. So, 7 days later, he tries a different approach. He sends out a dove. Unlike the raven, a dove is more delicate and needs a clean, dry place to rest. The first time Noah sends the dove out, it finds no place to set its foot and returns to the ark. Noah reaches out his hand and brings it back inside. This tells him the floodwaters are still too widespread. The world isn't ready. It's a "not yet" from God. Noah waits another 7 days. This pattern of sevens is significant, echoing the creation week and reminding us that God's rhythm is woven into this story of recreation. He sends the dove out again. This time, the dove returns in the evening, and in its beak is a freshly plucked olive leaf. This is one of the most iconic images in the entire Bible. An olive leaf. This wasn't just some random debris, it was fresh. It meant that trees were not only uncovered but were alive and budding. Life was returning to the earth. This was the sign of hope they had been waiting for, a tangible piece of evidence that a new world was emerging from the waters. It's a symbol of peace and new beginnings that resonates even today. Still, Noah's patience is incredible. Even with this hopeful sign, he doesn't just throw the doors open. He waits another 7 days. He sends the dove out a third time, and this time, it doesn't return. The mission is complete. The dove has found a home. The earth is now habitable. The world is ready. Now, we get to the big moment. It's the first day of the first month of Noah's 601st year. A new year, a new age. Noah removes the covering of the ark and looks out, and he sees that the surface of the ground is dry. Can you imagine that sight? After a year on the ark, seeing dry land must have been breathtaking. But even then, they don't leave. They wait almost 2 more months. Why? Because Noah waits for a direct command from God. He entered the ark on God's command, and he would only leave on God's command. This shows his complete trust and obedience. Finally, the word comes. In verse 15, God speaks to Noah, saying, "Go out from the ark, you and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing of all flesh, that they may swarm on the earth, and be fruitful and multiply on the earth." The command to be fruitful and multiply echoes the original command given to Adam and humanity in Genesis 1. This is truly a new beginning, a recommissioning of humanity and the animal kingdom to fill the earth. So they exit the ark, Noah, his family, and every single creature, pair by pair, kind by kind. Imagine the procession. A parade of life stepping out into a clean, washed world, under a sky that is no longer threatening. The air must have smelled so fresh and new. It's a beautiful picture of God's salvation and preservation. What's the very first thing Noah does after stepping onto dry land? He doesn't build a house. He doesn't plant a field. The first thing he does is build an altar to the Lord. His first act in this new world is an act of worship. He takes some of every clean animal and every clean bird and offers burnt offerings on the altar. This wasn't a casual, thank you. This was a profound act of gratitude, acknowledging that their survival was entirely due to God's grace and mercy. And God's response to this worship is one of the most moving parts of the whole story. Verse 21 says, "And when the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done." The pleasing aroma isn't about the literal smell of the sacrifice, it's about God being pleased with the heart of worship behind it. God makes a promise, not to Noah, but to himself, in his heart. He acknowledges the reality of human sinfulness, that our hearts are inclined toward evil from a young age. This hasn't changed. The flood didn't fix the human heart. But God's response to that sinfulness is what changes. Instead of responding with destructive judgment like the flood, he promises to sustain the world. And this leads to the final, beautiful promise of the chapter. Verse 22, "While the earth remains, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night, shall not cease." This is the covenant of common grace. God promises to uphold the natural rhythms and seasons of the world, providing a stable environment for all of humanity, both the righteous and the unrighteous, to live. It's a promise of stability, predictability, and God's sustaining power. Every time we see the seasons change, every time the sun rises, it's a reminder of this ancient promise God made after the flood. Genesis 8 is such a powerful chapter. It takes us from the judgment of the flood to the promise of a new beginning. We see God's faithfulness in remembering Noah, his patient work of restoration, and his gracious response to a worshiping heart. And it all points forward to an even greater salvation and a greater new creation, one made possible not by an ark of wood, but through the sacrifice of Jesus, which was the ultimate pleasing aroma to God. Thanks so much for joining me to walk through this chapter. It's packed with so much hope. If you found this meaningful, be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss our next study when we look at the covenant God makes with Noah in chapter 9. See you next time.